Jim Harbaugh, in his return to the NFL, got the win. The Chargers take down the Raiders. At one point, this was a defensive slugfest. Both defenses were going to town on each other. Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, oh my goodness. If your favorite team has to go up against this duo, you're in a lot of trouble if your offensive line sucks, man, because in the first half against the Chargers, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, they couldn't be blocked, man. It's like, what can you do when you're going up against a defensive tackle that is dominant when it comes to getting after your quarterback and is dominant against the run? You can't avoid running his side because he's right smack dab in the middle of your defense. No matter what, he's going to cause a problem. And then when you want to try to game plan the run away from Christian Wilkins, you got to worry about Max Crosby. These are two of the NFL's top 10 players on defense. And they make the Raiders' defense a legitimate elite unit. Their secondary's pretty good. You know, the Raiders' defense came to play in this game. And I don't even think that the Raiders offensively were too bad neither. Gardner Minshew, I felt he played pretty well in this game. Now, he did have the typical Gardner Minshew weird turnovers. He had one fumble where a guy didn't even come off the edge and knock it out of his hands. Like, he was just bobbling the football. He lost control of it, and the Chargers scooped it up, and you was like, okay, there you go. There's the Gardner Minshew experience for you. But, you know, outside of that mistake, I felt Gardner Minshew played winning football. What lost the Raiders this game was the Zamir White fumble. You also had a key missed field goal in the second half. And once you missed that field goal, that's when the Chargers started to take control of this game. J.K. Dobbins, you know, this dude is a stud when he's healthy. The problem is he's unable to stay on the field. But today, he was going off. He had 10 carries, 135 rushing yards. He was averaging 13.5 yards per attempt. He has like over 22 fantasy points for me right now on my fantasy football team. He carried the Chargers offense in the second half. Justin Herbert, he looks rusty. He threw a pick after the Chargers got a big fumble. He overthrew two wide open wide receivers for touchdowns. You know, Justin Herbert looked really shaky in this game. And I'm wondering how much of Herbert's struggles in this game against the Raiders were due to him having to learn a new scheme under Greg Roman. Because the thing with Greg Roman is that he has really good schemes when it comes to the run game. You know, when Greg Roman's calling your plays offensively, you're guaranteed to have an elite rushing attack. But his offense kind of holds back the quarterback because it's tight end heavy. You don't have a lot of receivers on the field. And you know, for Justin Herbert, man, he just didn't look like himself out there. He definitely looked a little rusty. Hopefully he ends up improving over the next couple of weeks. He did miss a good stretch of training camp due to an injury that he sustained. So maybe that's why he looked so sluggish out there. But this was a pretty entertaining game, surprisingly. But when the Chargers started to roll in the fourth quarter, you already kind of knew that the game was pretty much over. The Raiders did fight back and make it a one-possession game when you look at the final score, 22-17. But really, the Chargers were the more dominant team in the second half. The Raiders' defense got worn down. And that's really when the Chargers started to play the brand of football that Jim Harbaugh wants to. Smash mouth football. We're going to run the football down your throat. We're going to prove that we're stronger than you. We're more physical than you on the line of scrimmage. And that's what happened in the second half of this game. But really, I believe the Raiders had the opportunity to win this thing. But when you have 3 turnovers and a missed field goal going up against a team like the Chargers, eventually they're going to make you pay for those mistakes. And that ultimately is the reason why the Raiders lost. They couldn't take care of the football. Gardner Minshew played pretty well. You can't really put this loss on him. For the most part, I felt he was pretty good. But shout out to Jim Harbaugh getting his first win as the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. And I believe next week they're going to be playing the Carolina Panthers. So it looks like they're going to end up starting out 2-0.